So as I said, I'll be discussing tariffs.
Okay.
So these are basically tax or import taxes that domestic businesses need to pay for foreign goods, and this would theoretically encourage domestic production as well as generating some revenue for the government. Let's go over a very short history on the US tariff system. So initially, the US heavily relied on tariff during the 18th and 19th century to compete with established European companies at the time. But after the post World War II, they become a very liberal free trade policy country. But I think primarily from 2018 onwards, Trump has started imposing tariffs again, especially on China. And actually, tariffs showed a mixed result on different studies. First of all, it will increase cost. So one tariff was provided given on washing machines in 2018, and the entire increase in cost had to be taken care of by the consumer. So it was pushed to the consumer. Second impact is retaliation. Like if you give or put tariffs on products, the countries on which you're imposing tariffs will also give a retaliatory tariff if you are in any way dependent on the other country. Thirdly, it can reduce competition. So yeah, it's comes somewhat self-explanatory why it reduce competition if not done correctly. So some of the challenges to this tariffs effectiveness are that there are workarounds. So companies can try and find loopholes to avoid tariffs. For example, I think there was a case where tariff was there were tariffs on automotive companies, and the tariff was on the entire car. So companies would disassemble the car, send the parts to the country where they want to sell, and then assemble it. So they don't have to pay in tariffs. So that is one such example of where you can find loopholes. Secondly, they could just relocate firms instead of trying to sell their product to the country that has imposed tariff. They will just choose to sell to other countries or move their headquarters to other countries, something like that. And thirdly, cost transfer. So initial uh, when initially a tariff is imposed, mostly the cost, the companies will try to push the consumers instead of they are taking care of it. So ultimately, the prices of all equipments, whatever people want to buy, will increase. It is the immediate effect of tariffs. And overall, yeah, tariffs they hold a strategic value in protecting some key industries of a country for national security reasons, but they should be better applied precisely or strategically instead of somewhat generally or universally, which Trump is trying to do now. And in the US context, for example, in nowadays global supply chain, different and complex products, and higher domestic labor cost, this will make it difficult to bring in the economic disruptions that tariff once was capable of. So now let's try to go over some of Trump's tariff that he has proposed or imposed after his presidency. So in Feb 2025 itself, we had implemented a 10% tariff and on all Chinese imports, not specific to anything, to all of them. And later he increased it to 20% in March. He has also imposed 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico, I think. And although this implementation was delayed due to some compliance or something until April, but still it will be imposed, I think. Additionally, he has also imposed 25% tariffs on EU on products from EU, on 25% on automotive imports as well, and high imports on semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, so almost everything. So these tariffs will have some economic implications. So, for example, the tariffs in China, Mexico, and Canada will increase federal tax revenue by 142 billion in 2025, which will cost the American household, which is saying they're saying about $1,000 of additional, what should I say, additional cost to the American household. And also the stock markets have uh, responded negatively because of these tariff announcements. And what else? Consumer prices as well are expected to rise across multiple different sectors, including energy will go up. Groceries, the price of groceries will go up because Mexico is the source of two-thirds of the US vegetable imports. So all in all, uh, there's an estimate by Yale's budget lab that the American household could lose $1,200 in purchasing power by 2029 because of such tariffs. And not only economic implications, there are implications to international relations with other countries and such. So, likewise, Canada has responded aggressively to the US tariffs, and they have also given immediate 25% tariffs on quite a lot of American exports. They're planning to increase this as well. While China has also implemented some targeted retaliatory measures, including 15% tariffs on different energy products, on different agriculture products, and such. And they have added some American companies to some, I think they maintain some unreliable entity list or something like this. And they're also launching some antitrust investigation. And Mexico has adopted somewhat a cautious approach where they have indicated plans for countermeasures, but they have not implemented any such tariffs so as of now. Uh, and beyond just this retaliation, there are direct some economic impacts as well. For example, some reports mention that the US GDP could decline some percentage as well. It will also might result in the decline of China's GDP as well as EU. So yeah. Let's see. Let's talk about some perspectives from different political opinion. Uh, Mostly the conservative side, I think, view this as beneficial for the American industries and manufacturing, whereas the progressive or the liberal side, they are criticizing these tariffs because it will ultimately burden the low-income Americans with higher prices. While some, let's say, centrist will say that tariffs will, in the long run, will be useful for the American economy, but Trump's erratic or let's say what's the term? Maybe dictatorial kind of methods of imposing tariffs will not do much good in the short term. And overall, I think that is what we can conclude of regarding these tariffs. Do you have any other opinions on anything?
Yeah, in theory, the idea of tariffs is one of the reasons it is applied is to foster the growth of domestic industries. Yeah, means a homeland, yes, domestic industries. So that's one way of strategically using tariffs. But yes, to comment more on this, I also have to understand the underlying motives behind why he is implementing tariffs. For example, in China, 20% or 10%, whatever it was, on everything. So this means that it's less of a decision about fostering domestic industries and more about it's more about international relations and geopolitical tensions. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, I think I also read somewhere that the reason, one of the reasons could be he wants is the term negotiation power or something like that.
Yes.
Because ultimately, many countries do rely on US as a market.
Hmm. So yeah, it means that that would be more of a geopolitical reason behind it, rather than trying to uh, grow your domestic industry. I mean, most of their domestic industries are already quite mature in terms of in terms of industries like tech industry, EV, and etc.
But I think he might be trying to boost the manufacturing sector because
Yes,
semiconductor manufacturing, automotive manufacturing is all done in
yes,
mostly China and other countries.
yeah. From that point of view, that's a valid point, because yeah, in terms of manufacturing, China is superior to US. So yes, tariffs might help that. So that could be a valid reason behind that. I
And
mean,
also the previous attempt at tariffs, or yeah, basically tariffs at China is really not being fruitful as much as he would have liked, I think, because they are also succeeding in EVs. They are also succeeding in AI.
yes,
So in they also have their own semiconductor from Huawei and stuff. So it's not really doing the effect they wanted, I think.
yeah. I mean, at some point of, I mean, somewhere some years ago, they banned Huawei phones in US. Was it true? Something like true.
Yeah, it's still banned, yes.
Yes. Even or is it allowed in India?
Some
Huawei.
some Huawei or Honor phones do come to India, but because the core technology is banned for Huawei, so you will not get Android
Okay. So yes,
in
I
Honor
think so.
phones.
After they banned, now Huawei has their own operating system, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think they have their own operating system. They also have their own semiconductor,
Yes.
some Kirin chip.
So things like trying to ban Chinese products is actually uh, in this is actually doing the opposite effect for them. Instead
Mm.
of losing market share, maybe they are, but at the same time they are also it also incentivizes them to create their own things from the ground up, instead of relying anything on uh, other countries. So
Mhm.
yes, and yeah, but I'm not very aware about the tensions going between Canada and US in terms that from a geopolitical or international relations point of view. But yeah, the China one, since it's a much more bigger issue, so I think so I'm relatively more familiar about it, so I can understand the competition behind these two countries.
Yeah, regarding Canada, I'm also not sure, but I have been hearing like he wants Canada to be the 52nd or whichever number state of US.
Yeah, I think so. I've heard something like that. Okay.
Yeah, and I think since the last few years or however much, the Canadian Prime Minister, what was his name? Uh,
Justin Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau, he did not have much goodwill, let's say, in in the Canada, but
Mm.
since Trump imposed this 25% tariff and he immediately retaliated with his their own tariffs, his reputation seems to have improved in Canada because of this.
Okay.
So politically also, maybe he ended up helping or improving the reputation of, even though if it is for a short term or whatever. And I think he has already confirmed that he's going to resign, and new PM is already elected or something, I guess, for Canada now.
Yes, yes. I think his name is Mark Carney. If I'm not wrong. The new Canada, the person who is set to become the Canada's new Prime Minister.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the other
Yeah.
thing was about about the household savings, because I think so. Recently, I again watched a video about tariffs where a person was interviewing other people on the streets. So one of the persons explained that, which has rightly explained that when a tariff is imposed, it ends up being. I mean, what I mean to say is that the consumers end up paying that thing because the cost is passed on to the consumers, as you have mentioned, which seems very logical. So if you are selling some products for 100 rupees in a country, and now suppose tariffs are added, that it means to import to that to export to that country, you need to pay some extra money. So where does that money come from? So either you have to compromise on your profit margins, but why should you compromise? Instead, you raise the prices and let the consumer pay for that. So ultimately, it's the consumer who pays that thing. So, but then again, you mentioned about the household saving. So yes, if they, so how is this going to happen? Means that's a contradiction in their way, in some ways. So yes, I mean there has to be something, some kind of narrative that they're trying to say, but again, from the U.S. government's point of view, it's not making a logically coherent argument, because since consumers are ending up paying the price, so how can households save some money from the thing?
Mhm. I think in the early stages, it will not be apparent if it is going to work or not. We'll have to wait and see in the long run how this plays out.